Welcome to Legacy Cast, where we talk about your story, your way, and what are you doing to make sure that people know about you many generations from now. Good morning, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, with your program Legacy Cast, where we talk to you about things that matter to people, both present and long term. As the name of the program implies, we do talk about legacy here, but not the way that most people think. What we really talk about is your story, your way, so that people many generations from now will know what mattered to you, who you were, what you did in life, and then likewise, the things that you did to change other people, so that the signs were there that you actually did live and that you made a difference in other people's lives and left the world better than you found it. So that in short is what we talk about here on our program. And I would like to welcome my guest, Lorraine, to the program this morning. Welcome in, Lorraine.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. And I would certainly like to kind of get into some of the questions that we ask. As the name, like I said, pertains to legacy, it's not really about money. It's about what have you done and what does it mean to you. I guess that's being our first question. What does having a legacy mean for you, Lorraine?
Well, for me, it means leaving a mark on the world in a positive way. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to be remembered once I'm no longer here. And I'd like to be remembered for helping other people as much as I possibly can. So for me, I try and do that through mainly writing. Okay. I am an author. My most recent book is called From Nope to Hope: How I Overcame My Suicidal Thoughts and How You Can Too. Now, From Nope to Hope is a self-help book, basically really for anyone wishing to lead a better life. Mm-hmm. But I did have a specific focus on those who suffered from depression or suicidal thoughts, simply because those are two afflictions that I've suffered from for a very long time. And I've learned how to cope and deal with the different traumas I've experienced in my life. And so by helping other people try and overcome their own personal demons and traumatic experiences that they've had and lead a happier, healthier life, they too can leave a better mark on the world and pass along the positive information that I've passed on to them. So kind of like a chain reaction, really.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I stand when I think of legacy.
And that's an incredible story. As you might know, I'm a veteran, and so I'm very much part of the advocacy for veteran suicide. And so you're mentioning that, and I'm thinking about all the people that my brothers in arms, so to speak, that they're dealing with the the traumas of what they've dealt with through combat experience or through their military service. And unfortunately there is a very high statistic as far as veteran suicide, between 20 and 22 per day that actually commit suicide. So your book is something that hits home with a lot of people that are going to be listening to the program here.
Yeah, and like post-traumatic stress disorder and all those kinds of things, that the aftermath that you go through after seeing and being part of such horrific circumstances, I mean, it's completely devastating to most people. Mm-hmm. And when you're having, those kinds of thoughts and feeling depression and despair and hopelessness and frustration and stress and all of those negative emotions that seem to just consume you completely, it's so hard to try and get yourself feeling better. Sure. You think that there's just absolutely no way that it's possible. But with a little bit of work and, self-work and learning some different coping strategies, it completely is possible. And that's the amazing part to me, because so many times throughout my life, I thought, it's never going to get better. Mm-hmm. but it did. And I mean, like, it took me 41 years to figure it out. But you know what? I'm glad I finally figured it out. And that's why, you know, I'm here now, and I'm here today, and I'm here trying to pass along the message of hope to other people, and, you know, helping people improve their lives so that they can actually lead a life worth living, one that they want to live.
Right. Yeah, that's a very strong message. Very strong. So given kind of what you've said so far, I would take it that you feel it's important that people consider, you know, really what their legacy looks like and how to act on that.
Oh, for sure. And I'm also a strong believer in the fact that everyone has a story, and everyone should share their story.
Okay.
Now, I would love it, because I'm such a lover of words and books. I would love for everybody to write a book and, you know, share their life experiences through their book, or through like their memoirs or whatever. But a lot of people are now making just videos to do that. And, you know, and that's the beauty of the age, the technological age that we're living in now, is that you can create a scrapbook of memories through either the written word, the spoken word, or, you know, a combination of even both. So
yeah.
I definitely think that people should, you know, be sharing their experiences with other people more.
So, you know, obviously, you know, as an author, that's one way that you correlate, you know, your mission into your business. Are there other ways that you correlate that kind of a focus into what you do?
Well, I'm a freelance writer, I'm an editor, and I also am an author who helps other people become authors. So I definitely encourage other people to write books. And because they, you know, self-publishing now is an option. So basically anyone can write a book and sell it on Amazon or wherever they want to sell it. I mean, there's different other places online where you can sell it. But Amazon is, you know, the most widely recognized, probably. I mean, if I said sells, S-E-L-Z, you probably wouldn't have heard of that. But everybody pretty much has heard of Amazon. But there are different places, like I said, that you can sell it online. You can create digital versions. You can create print versions even. And I've done both with my books. And I help other people do whatever it is that they want to do, whether it's just a digital version or both a digital and print versions. So I incorporate those components into my business, which is actually called Wording Well. So wordingwell.com is my website, and I do whatever I can to help other people share their stories.
Well, and it's very important, very important. So if you think about your business and the future of your business from a CEO standpoint, what are some things that maybe kind of keep you up at night about thinking of it from that standpoint?
You know what? I actually, because I run the business myself, I mean, I do have cover designers that I work with because I'm not a graphics artist. So other than other than having a cover designer that I work with, I run everything myself. And the only, I would say the only thing that nothing really keeps me up at night. So there's zero things in that standpoint. And, once a month I make sure that all my bookkeeping records are accurate. My income and expenses are accurately reported to the government for tax purposes and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing really that, like, I love every aspect of what I do, and in terms of running the business, it's easy for me as well.
Okay, and it sounds like from what you're explaining there that you have some strategies that are already in place that help you to run that business, so that it really isn't something that that you have maybe gaps in that strategy that worry you in your downtime. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Yes, I never thought about it that way, because I mean, for some people, I guess, bookkeeping aspects, for example, would kind of stress them out. But yeah, I mean, being a teacher, that was my prior occupation was being a high school math and English teacher.
Oh, wow.
So having those kind of skills, plus my organizational skills behind me, that's just assisted me in running my own business. So I can look at it from all different facets, not just the writing and editing part,
Right.
but the actual running of the business part, including maintaining the website and updating the testimonials page and doing the bookkeeping and the record keeping and, things like that. So I guess I do have all those strategies in place, but I never really considered, how important they were. I just kind of, took it for granted that, these are things that anyone who runs a business should know.
Yeah. Yeah. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people don't do that. You had the fortunate gift of, when you're mentioning your teaching background, having to put together, say, the lesson plans and so forth to actually plan out your day and plan out the years for your instruction, that you did have to do those things. And, it was second nature to you, but for a lot of other people, that may not be the case, to where, they're having to go to somebody else and have that person coach them on what those steps are. So you're blessed in that fact, it sounds like.
Yes, I am. I'm very lucky.
So as far as other entrepreneurs, people will try to start businesses, and unfortunately, a lot of them end up not succeeding. But what do you think some of the common reasons are that people do fail or just give up?
I think the biggest reason is that they don't expect so much work. Like They don't expect it to initially be as much work as it really is. Mm-hmm. I know from my own experiences when I first started blogging, it was new and exciting, but it was also a lot of work in terms of learning how to be a better blogger, a better webmaster, creating blog posts that people love and, that contain all the different components that a good blog post should have. And so after I had done some research and, I continually followed blogs about how to be a better blogger and things like that. And so I decided to pass along the information that I learned about just creating a blog post to other people. And so I give it away for free, actually, on my website on Wording Well. It's called 20 Blog Post Must-Haves. And because I think that every blogger should just have that information. And so I just give that away for free. So working on your business and working in your business are two different things. And that's another reason why I think entrepreneurs aren't as successful as they want to be.
Sure.
Because sometimes they are focusing too much in one area. Like, instead of working on their business and on trying to grow it, maybe they're too caught up in working in their business and serving the clients that they currently have, rather than looking for more. Now, given all of that, it depends on the type of business that you have. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, doing writing and editing, I do everything myself, especially when it comes to the editing, because I have an excellent eye, and I'm such a lover of words that when I read something, I read every single word. A lot of people just scan, especially on the internet and articles. But I read every single word and I absorb it and I feel it. And I notice, if there's a comma missing, or if there's like something out of place, or if like a little word like such as to or the is omitted and should be there. So I have a really good eagle eye when it comes to things like that. That's just something that I do not outsource to anyone. So working in my business, I'm the only one that can do that. Whereas working on your business, you can hire people to help you promote your business through marketing, sharing things on social media. A lot of people have virtual assistants now who either handle their social media accounts, even some emails.
Sure.
So it's, there's a lot of different things, but when you're starting out, you can get overwhelmed quite easily. And so I think that's how come a lot of entrepreneurs end up just, failing or simply giving up, because it's just overwhelming. There's too much to do.
Yeah, that kind of leads us to the next question I was going to ask you is, what are some specific roadblocks that you'd encourage people to look out for?
Oh, definitely overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
And, recognizing that, sometimes you just need to take a break.
Right.
Even like the signs to look for, is if you're feeling stressed out constantly,
mm-hmm.
if you feel like, all you're thinking about is work, that's not a good sign. You need to create a good work-life balance. And I actually have a whole blog post on my website about that, with a free downloadable checklist and template and everything to help people out, because that's one of the things that I initially had to figure out. I was struggling with, I'm doing so much work with my business, so much work with blogging, so much work with running my website and trying to promote it and sharing things on social media, trying to network with other bloggers, trying to figure out who can help me take my business to the next level, who can help me get more exposure, who can, and it's really frustrating, because when you are a solopreneur, not just an entrepreneur, but a solopreneur, you are doing everything yourself. So another thing to probably watch out for is try and figure out what kind of tasks you can outsource to other people. Mm-hmm. Like I said, getting someone to run, say, your Twitter account or your Facebook pages, or, whatever kind of social media that you just don't like doing. For me, I'm a huge fan of Facebook. I love Facebook, and I do not like Twitter. And that's just my personal preference. So I've thought about hiring someone to handle my Twitter account. I've also thought about hiring someone to handle my Pinterest account, because Pinterest is a whole nother social media that has millions and millions of daily users. And I have a freelancing friend of mine. She is the Pinterest queen. She loves Pinterest. She gets probably 50,000 views a month just on one of her blogs. She runs multiple blogs just from using Pinterest. She has grown her audience only using Pinterest. And she uses a tool, it's called Tailwind, and it's a posting, like a pinning schedule, so you pin your posts all the time.
Sure.
But it's all automated, and she's used that. Now, I've been actually looking for someone who knows how to use Tailwind, like a virtual assistant, so that I could hire to do that to help me with my business. So up until this point, I'm doing everything myself, but that's one of the things that I'm considering doing in the future is, finding a qualified person to help me with, certain tasks. And I would recommend that for all entrepreneurs to kind of watch out for, especially if you particularly don't like a specific task and you think about, the return on your investment. So for example, if you could make, say, $60 an hour doing whatever it is you're doing. So say for me, editing. So say I make $60 an hour editing, but I can pay someone $20 an hour to, work on my Pinterest account. Well, that means I'm still making $40. So I'm still up money. So you have to think of, the old saying, it takes money to make money, right?
Absolutely.
So, if I could do that, then I could focus more on, working in my business instead of on my business. So that's another thing that people should consider.
Yeah. And, that kind of, again, directs us to another question I was going to be asking is the support and resources people should look for, that helps position them for success. You were mentioning looking for maybe a virtual assistant or somebody to outsource. Were there some additional things and some tools? You were also mentioning the Tailwind tool that's out there. one of the things that I use is buffer to help spread out my message to multiple sources. That way, I don't have to really kind of keep up with it. I can during my downtime I can set it and automate it, and so that all of my posts blast out to all the different social medias.
Yeah, Buffer is a good one. So is Hootsuite. There's a lot that basically do the exact same thing. So it's just whatever kind of interface you prefer working with, and some are, they have different pricing options. You can go for a premium package or the regular package or free package, things like that. So yeah, definitely using automation is one thing that can help you. Positioning yourself for success generally involves being around other successful people, learning from them, and maintaining a positive outlook even during the tough times. So keeping a good mindset is critical as well.
It is. And when you're mentioning the positive mindset, is something I remind myself of, especially in business, is that business isn't an emotion thing. Business is business. And so if I just remind myself, take the emotion out of it, take that knee-jerk reaction out of it, and handle business decisions really in more of a black and white, then that helps me. Because then just because somebody didn't call me back doesn't mean that they don't like me as a person.
Exactly.
It's taking that personal piece out of it, because that's something that we as humans, we as individuals have a hard time doing a lot of times, is sort of removing ourself from the center of that conversation, because many times that other person's not thinking of it as a you situation. They're thinking of it from a business standpoint.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you have to be able to understand that you can't create what if scenarios in your head, and you can't create like assumptions like, like you said, like, oh, that person didn't call me back because they didn't like me. Well, you know what? You don't know that maybe their sister's daughter just had an accident, was in a car accident, and they've all rushed to the hospital. And she's been unable to get to a computer or a telephone even. Maybe she forgot it at home in the rush. Like, you never know what kind of situations people are dealing with. And so you have to remove the emotional part sometimes.
Sure.
And think only, okay, well, you know what? Okay, this is a fact, and this is a feeling. So what am I looking at here? You have to really deal with the facts, right?
Yeah, it's something I call a lot of times head trash. It's that head trash, the things that we're sticking in our own heads that many times that it's stuff that's just fabricated, and we really have to keep that in check. And
exactly.
we have to keep our eyes open to the fact that our minds are going to play those tricks on us, and we have to be very mature about it, and just realize that yes, as humans, that's going to happen. But we also have to remind ourselves, this is not real. And, go back to, the things that we know, and go to our, the KPIs, the key process indicators that we go through for our daily process, and just, keep our nose to the grindstone that way.
Exactly.
As far as, we're kind of in a very unique time in our society, because we've seen a lot of things most recently, especially that people are starting to, take stands on their particular values, whether that be, personal values, religious, political, whatever. Do you think that that's something that people should incorporate into their business, incorporating their value system in it, or should they keep it separate? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think they should definitely incorporate their own personal values into their business. I mean, that's what makes your business yours and unique. Okay. And being authentic and being true to yourself and true to your own heart, and working with passion and doing something that you love. I mean, most people, there's aspects of running a business that you might not like, but overall, I can honestly say I am doing what I love, and that's working with words. I mean, I'm a word lover from way back. So when you have, your all these positive values and beliefs and what you stand for. I think that if you incorporate that into your business, like that's a definite must. You have to do that, because then other people will, they'll feel your message instead of just hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
They'll actually feel it, and they'll want to work with you. They'll want to buy from you. They'll want to connect with you, and they will brag to their friends about the type of person you are and the type of work that you do. I mean, I've worked with an author. His name is Maxwell Ivy Jr. He's a blind man from Texas. He is inspirational times 10, in my opinion. Not only is he blind and blogging and on social media, but he went through a huge transformation regarding his weight. He used to weigh over 500 pounds, and now he's lost over half his weight, and he weighs about 250. That alone is incredible in itself for anyone who's ever struggled with trying to lose weight. Like, I have a hard time losing 20 pounds, never mind 250. Then he's authored 3 different books. He's traveled. He went last year. He went on, the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. He traveled to New York over the Christmas and New Year's holidays alone.
Wow.
As a blind man, alone. He was there for about 2 weeks, and he did all sorts of incredible things. He went skating in Rockefeller Center. He went to, on a ferry ride to the Statue of Liberty. He has opened my eyes to show me how to appreciate life even without sight. Because we're such visual people that we don't, you think, oh, well, this person's blind and they like traveling. Like, how could they even enjoy that? They can't see where they're going. Right. It's not about seeing. It's about feeling and experiencing so many other different things using your other senses. So Max has hired me to edit all 3 of his books, work with the cover designers to create the covers, help him get them out on Amazon and create space, and both in print and in digital. He has been probably, I would say, one of my biggest fans in terms of constantly bragging to other people about the quality of work that I do and the type of person that I am. So much so that I actually suggested to him that he kind of add to his business and start offering a media publicity service, which he now has. And it's funny because, Max would always send me these links saying, oh, Lorraine, you'd be perfect for this podcast. Your story fits with their message, and, you're just aligned with one another. And Max is actually how you and I got connected, because he sent me an email saying, like, this guy, you'd be perfect for this guy's podcast. And that's how you and I got connected. So now Max is actually adding that to his services. So it's just, amazing when you incorporate your, getting back to the question that you asked me now, it's just amazing how far you can go with your business when you infuse your own personal beliefs and morals and values into what you do.
Yeah, and I like how you put that, because I personally, I'm a person of faith, and that's something that a lot of people they shy away from injecting that into their business, whereas I, on the other hand, don't. I'm very straightforward with this drives what I do from my finance practice, and I'll give people examples of why it's so important to me, from my faith standpoint, and so I give those examples to people of why I feel it's important. And then sometimes it will resonate with people. And if it's a thing that causes them to not want to do business, then they probably shouldn't have been doing business in the first place.
I agree.
Yeah, and so it really gives us, as one of my mentors had said, go for the no up front. It gives us that out of, doing business with somebody that really is not going to be a good client for you, because there's only so many hours in the day. And, if we're using those hours with someone that's really not going to be all in with what your message is, then you're spending time on somebody that's not going to give you that perfect return on investment that you really need.
Exactly. Exactly. I completely agree. And, you know, when we first start working with clients, there's a lot of mistakes that we end up making. And I can recall back, you know, like when I first started blogging online back in 2013, I remember my very first freelancing client and all of the things that I learned from him and that I learned from myself while working with him and for him. And, you know, there were so many different experiences that, you know, looking back, it's like, yeah, you know, like I really should not have put myself through that, because there was some negativity involved as well. And it was like, no, I don't need that. And so I learned a lot from it, and naturally I wrote about it. There's 10 lessons I learned about working with my freelancing client, who was both my best and worst client. But, you know, we all have experiences that kind of stick with us. And if we can, you know, take the lessons that from that experience and continue to apply it to our future experiences, then we're going to be better off for it. And, you know, and that's the whole thing about, you know, being, you know, living your legacy and leaving a legacy to others is you want to be ultimately the best person that you can be and give them the best information you can give. And, you know, it's just always striving to be the best version of yourself that you can be, you know, in both personal and business.
Yeah, totally agreed. 100%. So you're kind of leaning, again, you know, you're such a good guest because our conversation is going, you know, like question by question by question. It's almost like you know what I'm going to ask. What's something that you wish that you had done earlier in life that you know now is vitally important that maybe you didn't do earlier that you should have?
Oh my goodness, that's a really loaded question, James.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I like those.
Because I've had so many different experiences. You know, a couple of things pop into my head, and now this is like completely off topic, but one of the things that, as a woman who has always been a bigger woman and struggled with her weight, and always thought, you know, because of, you know, what the media tells us, like, oh, you know, you have to be model thin and picture perfect to be beautiful. I wish that I knew when I was like a teenager forming, you know, my self-image, that I wish I knew that there's actually guys out there that prefer bigger women. That's something I didn't learn until I was in my 30s. And it was like totally mind-blowing when I learned that, because it increased my own self-image a lot, you know, my own self-esteem. Like it just became like a lot more positive. Like, so that, you know, and that's like kind of totally off topic, but it's something that I wish I had known. Now you actually asked me if there's something I wish I had done. Well, see, I'm a single mom. I became a single mom at the age of 18, and I was pretty much forced to be responsible and grow up fast. And, you know, I raised my son while going through 5 years of university, and it was really, really tough at times. And I think if there's something that I wish I had done, it would have been probably more to enjoy the moments instead of like always stressing out and worrying about like what's going to happen next month or what's going to happen in the future. I didn't take enough time to be in the moment. And that's something that I've actually learned to do now. I've learned to appreciate the small things, because it's those small daily things that make us really love our life. You know, the aroma of whatever happens to be baking in the oven or cooking, you know, in the stove, and just, you know, feeling gratitude for the fact that, yes, I have food. I have a roof over my head. I don't have to worry about my bills being paid next month because I've created a life for myself where my income allows me to do that. I no longer have to worry about that. So I can appreciate more of what I have, and I can help others more. You hear of, people starving or going through, some kind of crisis, or, anything. Like just yesterday I was on Facebook, and one of my friends over in, it was either Pakistan or India, it was somewhere over there, they had some flooding, and he had taken a live video of people. He was in this, it was in a slum area in the slums, and
Okay.
everybody was walking. They were all outside their homes, and there was like probably about a foot of water, and it was just everywhere, like, because there's been so much rain and everything over there. And then today I went on, and they were passing out like water and food and things like that to people to help them out. And it's like, you know what, you see things like that and you think, oh, thank God it's not me there. But these things are happening. And then just,
Right.
like recently there was a shooting down in Toronto yesterday, and I have a few friends that live down there, and it's like, it's just some gunman just started going wild and shooting everybody, and apparently he ended up shooting himself. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but I mean, those kinds of, like, these kinds of things are terrifying. And so when you are living in your daily life and you are safe and you are, you are happy, like, you have to appreciate those things, because those are the things that fill you with peace and happiness and the ability to want to help others. So being in the moment and being mindful and grateful are like really, really key components to me of things that are vitally important. And it's not always easy to do, and you wish maybe that you had learned to do that more in the past, but that's something that I'm definitely doing now in my present, and will continue to do in my future.
Oh, great. So I'd like to, just for the last quarter of our time here, focus on maybe you on a little bit more personal level, if that's okay.
Sure.
And what hurdles did you have to face personally, when you were starting your business, and how did you overcome that?
When I was starting my business? I actually, my story's a little bit different, because I never really set out to start my own business. I started blogging online back in 2013 with the hope of becoming recognized as an author. And as I started my websites, I started a free website on WordPress.com, and I just basically blogged as, like, I thought blogging was kind of like keeping an online diary, and I really didn't think too many people would be reading anything that I wrote. So when I started getting comments that, oh, I hear your cuckoo clock.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I didn't think anybody was going to be reading what I had written. And when I started getting comments from people, I was genuinely floored. And, especially when they were so positive and saying, like, I look forward to reading what you're going to write next. It's like, okay, this is pretty cool. And so I started sharing more and more of my own personal experiences, and I found that people genuinely liked my honesty and my openness. And then as I blogged more and more, I started guest blogging on other people's sites, and that's actually how my freelancing business first got started, was because I was asked to write articles every month for this website, and I was like, oh, okay. So in addition to being an author, like, people like are going to actually just want to pay me to write for them. Like, this is a whole new world, like totally different from what I had set out to do. And so when I started freelancing, I thought, okay, well, this is taking up a lot of my time, like trying to maintain my own website, trying to write articles for other people, doing the editing, and, trying to keep all my other goals in check as well. So that the biggest hurdle I find, and I still find, is that there's just not enough hours in the day or in a week.
Sure.
To try and get everything done. I mean, I have so many different projects on the go and they're all in, various stages of completion, that nothing is complete yet. And I think to myself, like, oh my God, am I ever going to get like these 50 projects finished? And and literally I have like 53 blog posts in my draft folder in my website. I have 3 different books that I'm working on for myself. I have plans for a series of books for bloggers. I have all these ideas and all these things, started, and it's like, when is there going to be time to finish everything? Because in the meantime, you have to still continue to enjoy life. And right now, where I live, it's summertime, and it's basically only summer for 2 months of the year. Like, where I could actually go outside and go swimming outside, which is something I enjoy doing, because we just don't get the weather. Like, I live up in Canada, and it's, like 6 months of it is just freezing cold and snow and, wet and everything else. And then, like spring and fall are kind of the, the iffy seasons, but summer really only lasts 2 months, basically, like part of June, all of July, and part of August. And it's like, I have to put other things on the back burner simply so I can just enjoy the weather and, do things that I can only do in the summertime, camping or going swimming outdoors, things like that. So, you put things on hold, and you enjoy life in the meantime, but then when you go back to it, it seems like something always pops up that requires your attention. Mm-hmm. And so you end up putting, like, well, this project's the least important thing, so I'll just put that on the back burner right now. And, the perfect case in point is when I first started blogging back in 2013, this is 5 years ago now, I started with the intention of publishing a book that I wrote when I was in university about Canadian poetry that my professor encouraged me to get published. I have yet to publish it. It's been 5 years now. So that's what I'm saying. Like, and this is something that, this is how life can, a perfect example of how you can get so caught up in life, and how life can throw you curveballs that you just, completely get sidetracked from what you originally started to do. So my book is still here. I'm actually I've decided to self-publish it instead of getting it traditionally published. So I've at least made progress that far. And I'm going through editing it right now, and I'm trying to think of like what would be a good cover for it. So anyhow, I'm making progress finally, 5 years later, on that goal. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that I have done and want to do, and something that kind of threw me another curveball in life was writing my book From Nope to Hope, because I wrote a blog post. This is how it all started. I wrote a blog post about my suicide attempt. Then I noticed I was getting over 500 people a day reading it. And I was absolutely floored at how many people needed more information on how to deal with what they're going through.
Sure.
And so that's what prompted me to write my book. And I thought, well, here's a win-win situation I can create. I can share all of the things that I know, all these strategies and techniques that have helped me, and package them all up in a book, sell it from my website, and help other people, and make a couple of bucks in the process. Win-win. And so that's exactly what I did. The unfortunate thing is that there's so many people that need that kind of help. It breaks my heart. It's like, oh, I sold another book. Oh shit. Like
yeah.
Some poor soul out there that I know for sure, like is feeling that. Like I just want people to, want the best for people. And so it's been kind of a kind of a rocky situation emotionally for me, because, it's like, oh, I'm making money, son of a gun, like, damn, because that means that, someone out there is struggling so much. The thing that makes me feel better is that they've actually recognized that they need help and are reaching out for it. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that a lot of people I find have trouble doing, is reaching out for the help when they really need it.
Sure.
Because, they think they're all alone, or they're too scared, or, they think no one else is going to understand. Mm-hmm. So, from a personal perspective on that, it's kind of heartbreaking, but at the same time, it makes me feel good that, hey, you know what, maybe I'm really helping somebody again, and that's
right.
And that's a
right.
good.
Yeah, because each time somebody purchases your book, that should be a celebratory moment that, someone had a small victory that day, because, they took that step to reach out and learn from somebody else who's been through it. So, they're taking that positive step in the right direction.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, and that was something that I initially struggled with myself at the beginning, because, like I said, I think on one hand this, and then on the other hand this, and now I've started to realize, like, hey, you know what, this is a good thing. You're helping people, they're going to be better for it, and they are hopefully in turn going to pay it forward and help someone else.
Absolutely. If it was a free thing, they might not put as much value in it. So, if they're going to sacrifice, their finances to obtain what you have, then it's going to be more important to them. And so,
exactly.
that certainly kind of puts things in perspective there. Other than being an author, was there another profession other than, kind of what you're doing right now that you would like to attempt at some point?
Well, I was a teacher. I taught high school math for 3.5 years. And I actually had to move away from my hometown to do that. And 3.5 years in, I actually moved to a small town of like 9,000 people. And I'm from a city, so I was quite homesick, and I ended up quitting my job and moving back home. And the reason I never returned to teaching was because I actually ended up in an accident where I almost lost my leg.
Goodness.
And yeah, it was quite devastating, because I had to have emergency surgery. Otherwise, they told me they were going to have to amputate my leg. So that was really scary. And I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I had 2 surgeries. I had to learn how to walk again. It took me 6 months to heal. And then I'm physically, my leg is, a little bit deformed and definitely scarred for life. So there's that. And with that comes some physical limitations, including, I have to be careful of, I can't stand for too long, or, climb too many stairs, or, lift things. There's different kind of physical things that happened that just prevented me from returning to teaching. And so it was after that I ended up, deciding to pursue my literary career, so to speak. And I'm actually quite happy with the way things are progressing. So as I was saying, I found myself kind of thrust into this position with the book of being an inspiration to others, because I have overcome a lot of crap in my life, from being raped when I was a virgin, being a single mother, being a drug addict, being a gambling addict, being a high school dropout, all these kinds of things I've overcome. And, I'm proud to say that my son is, alive and healthy. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs. I've been a good role model for him, I guess, kind of in an opposite way. Like, he's like, oh, well, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to do this. So when I wrote From Nope to Hope, a lot of people, you know, because I started sharing so many of my past experiences openly, I found myself being put in a like an influencer and an inspirational role model position. And so, you know, now a lot of my posts on Facebook will begin with the two hashtags, motivation and inspiration. So I'm just offering like hope on kind of a regular basis to people who need it. I've ended up connecting with a lot of wonderful people as a result. So I'm very grateful to that. And it's kind of led me to another area of life, which is motivational speaking, or, you know, just speaking at different kinds of events where I can reach more people and help other people. So that's something that I've been getting into a little bit more as a result of, you know, like I said, this new role model position I find myself in. So, which is really cool because, you know, I can help a lot more people that way. So I'm really liking how, you know, the one positive thing is leading to like a bunch of other positive things in my life.
So kind of looking at yourself and your personal qualities, what would you say your greatest strength has become?
I think my ability to survive almost anything is a strength in itself. And, you know, I learned to implement the different strategies and techniques that I talk about in my book in order to be that person now. I'm a perfectionist, so that helps me when it comes to work. Yet I know, because I know the next question is you're going to ask me what's my greatest weakness.
Right.
That's also my greatest weakness, is being a perfectionist. Because it literally drives my friends nuts, because I'm always constantly like editing things, and, you know, like I'll see, you know, my friends write on Facebook, they'll use like YOUR instead of YOU apostrophe RE for your and you are, and it's like, oh, it drives me nuts. And so I'm the grammar police, and it annoys people to no end. So that's kind of one thing I've been trying to work on, and you know, I used to like publicly out them or publicly correct them, and since then I've learned tact. So you know, I'll either send them, you know, a private message about, you know, like a mistake they made, or I will just put like a little mini English lesson up for all people to see, and I'll say, hey, you know, go take a look at this. And, you know, so I'm forever the teacher. But I've learned to be less obnoxious when it comes to policing others when it comes to grammar. So, but I have a lot of strengths, and I have, you know, a few weaknesses. I tend to talk too much sometimes about myself, kind of like I'm doing now. But I don't know. Did I answer your question adequately, James?
You did.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can certainly relate to what you're saying on a weakness, because I too am a perfectionist. My weakness, I would say, is, you know, being kind of controlling in everything that I do. You know, I want to do it myself. So, you know, outsourcing is virtually impossible for me, because I want to have my fingers in every single pot. And being a perfectionist means I have to do it just so. And so it's hard to work with me in a lot of cases, because, you know, I have my way, and, you know, my way is the way I want it to be done. And, you know,
I know what you're saying. My mom always said, you know, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Yeah, that's exactly me too. Yeah.
So a lot of people go to a certain place, you know, where they get their best creative, you know, juices flowing, their best ideas. What's that place for you?
Okay. There's two parts to that question that I want to address.
Okay.
One is the actual place where I feel creative and get creative, like my actual atmosphere.
Okay.
And the second part is where I get ideas from. So let's go to where I get my ideas from first, because that's, I think, probably more important, and that will relate to everybody, and everybody can do this. Go to your audience, go to your friends, go to your, if you have a blog, go to your statistics in your blog post and search for the questions that people ask where Google is sending people to your website. You know, like they'll type in a phrase, like people use this phrase, they typed it in and Google sent them to this blog post. So I get a lot of my ideas of for blog posts from those types of questions that people are asking, because if people are asking questions, that means they have a problem that they need solved. And there was one, for example, there was this, I'm just going to give you an example of this one article I ended up writing. It was about the Google Plus platform. You know, they were trying to be like Facebook, but they're not Facebook. They're Google Plus, and they're completely different. And a lot of people had questions, and they didn't, and no one had written about Google Plus. And I started looking, you know, when I was looking at my stats one day and I was looking at the search terms, Google was sending people to a post of mine that had nothing to do with solving this person's, you know, all these people's problems. So I ended up writing an article that using every single question and every single search term that they used. And I said, okay, Google Plus, the unanswered questions. And so there was like, oh my God, I can't remember how many there were. So anyways, I ended up writing 2 posts because there was people who even had more questions. So I take a look at, you know, the comments that people leave for me. I take a look at, you know, and I even ask people straight out, like, what are you struggling with the most right now? And so that's where I get a lot of my ideas from in terms of blog posts and how to help other people through that way. Now, when I feel inspired, because I write poetry and I write, you know, I write short stories and I write all kinds of different other things. It's not so much a place. It's just, it just happens. It's like a mindset thing. It's like I'm like hit with inspiration, for example, and I have to write it down. So it doesn't matter where I am. I just, you know, make those notes, whether it's in my phone or if it's at home, you know, on a piece of paper with a pen, which is how I actually prefer to physically write, because I get more enjoyment writing with a pen than typing something on my computer. But if there's, you know, if I have to physically type something on the computer and be in an atmosphere, I like it to be quiet, which is why I often work at night, because there's less traffic, there's less outside noise. I'm a nighthawk by nature anyway, so I just feel more alert and more in the zone. For some people, though, I've heard that, you know, going to a coffee shop and just kind of sitting in the corner and watching people and overhearing their conversations and things like that will spark creativity in some writers. I mean, everybody's different. You just kind of have to find what works best for you.
Yeah. And that's well put. You know, some people it's nature, you know, some people, you know, like you say, is a coffee shop. You know, for me, you know, if I'm at a coffee shop, I get shut down because, you know, I can't really think because of all the distractions. But, you know, for me, nature is kind of a place where I get my ideas. It's quiet and I can think. So everybody does have that place that they can go to be, you know, motivated and inspired. So from a very high level, if somebody was wanting to basically follow in your footsteps, what would you say the process is behind what you do?
Well, there's a couple of different things that people could do. If they want to be a freelance writer, then, you know, definitely practice writing and make sure that your research is accurate, and you know, start your own website for sure. Get on social media. Same thing applies to editing. However, I'm very, very picky when it comes to editing. You have to be a very highly skilled person, almost intuitively.
Right.
Like, there's certain things that I can teach others about editing, I even made a checklist of, there's like 17 things on my checklist. The blog post lists 5 for self-editing. But when there's certain skills that you kind of like, you either have or you don't, and some are really hard to learn. Like writing is easy to learn because writing just involves practice, and the more you write, the more you practice, the better you are. Editing, however, you have to really have a good understanding of the language and the intricacies of the language to know, do you put, double quotations inside of a single quotation and vice versa? Like what's the appropriate, thing? So, there are certain things that can be taught, but other things you just kind of know. Now, becoming an author, that's a whole nother different thing. Anyone can become an author. All you have to do is write out whatever it is that you want, hire an editor to help you fix it up and make it perfect, and then publish it on Amazon. It's simple, really. So it depends what people want to do, but they're basically, if you have a plan in your head, or if you have a goal in your head, then make a plan, like get on social media, get a website, start networking with other people, hone your skills, and just, keep moving forward and you'll succeed.
Good. So for our last question here, it's the one that most people dread the most, I find, is tell me kind of a trivia thing about you that nobody knows.
Oh my goodness. Something that nobody knows?
Yeah.
I'm so out there and I'm so open and on social media and in my blog posts that I've basically laid everything out there already. Something nobody knows. Oh my God, you've really stumped me here. Okay, here's something that not a lot of people know. Not a lot of people know that I'm bisexual.
Really?
Yeah. I've mentioned it a few times. It hasn't really sparked too much of a conversation with anybody. It's like either they don't care or they just don't want to talk about it. Which I find kind of strange because, like gay marriages are happening now in today's world, openly. Government forms now include a third box where it says male, female, and I don't identify with either, or whatever the third box says. Like, we're becoming more progressive in society, but yet I don't think that certain things are really talked about enough. Perhaps. So that's one thing why. Well, see, like a lot of people know that I was raped. They know that I was raped when I was a virgin, and they know that it led, kind of spiraled my life in a downward fashion from that point, simply because I didn't know how to cope. So that's no secret, but not a lot of people know that about me either. So but the bisexual thing is not something I've really talked much about on social media or in my blog posts, just simply because I think it's not. I just don't think people care one way or another, really. Like if I'm dating, who cares if I go on a date? Who cares if, I just think like people just don't care. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know. That's my answer. Yep. Bisexual thing.
So Lorraine, it's been a great pleasure to have you on our program today, and I certainly like to see you come back on down the road, and when you get some more books going, and let's have you on and talk about those books and what's going on in your life and in your world so that you can continue to inspire people.
Well, thank you so much for that invitation there, James. I really appreciate it. And it's been my pleasure being on your show today. I thank you so much again for having me.
Sure. And I certainly hope that this has been able to help you get your word out and we'll do our part to make sure that people can hear about you. What are good ways for people to get in touch with you, as far as, maybe connecting on social media or email or whatever your preferred contact is?
Yeah, actually, Facebook and email are my two favorites.
Okay.
There's a contact page on my website, on Wording, actually on both of my websites, on LorraineReguly.com as well as wordingwell.com. There's a contact page that lists all of my social media accounts and my emails. So basically, if people want to get in touch with me, all they have to do is send me a message or send me an email.
Okay.
I'm very, very good at responding to every message and every email. So I encourage people to reach out, especially if you are scared or in need of help or feeling alone or feeling like no one understands.
Sure.
Because trust me, both James and I have been through a lot, and feel free to reach out to, I would say probably both of us, if you need to. But yeah, I mean, I'm always available and always ready to help others. So
cool.
I want people to know that.
Well, you heard her here today, folks. Lorraine Reguly, and until next time, it's been great, and see you around the bend.